It's a long way to the top. If you wanna rock and roll, gonna rock and roll. Driving on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting boned, getting high, getting shook. I'll show you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. If you really see the new one night stands, try playing a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. Come on, everybody.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome to another installment of the 2006 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. We're here from Richmond. It's race number 13 of 36 here for the Pontiac Excitement 400. Getting ready to get started here on a late Saturday night as we are all set to race here at Richmond as we take you to the trackside for your starting lineup for tonight's race. Looking at the pole, it's going to be Kyle Busch in the 43 starting from first place, and joining him on the front row, it's going to be, excuse me while I actually check the starting lineup, your points leader, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car. Looking down the rest of the order, as starting from third place, it will be the 20 of Kevin Harvick, and in fourth, Christian Elder, that's the 0 car. Down into the rest of this starting order, and let me actually switch the stream window. Fifth place, that'll be Jeff Gordon in the 24, and Bobby Labonte in the 18, starting in sixth. Seventh, Ricky Hendrick in the 5, and Kurt Busch will be in 8th place in the 01 machine. Casey Atwood in 9th, and Tony Stewart in the 42 rounds out the top 10. Robbie Gordon will be starting 11th, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 will be in the 12th position. Scott Riggs will be 13th, and Todd Bodine in the 77, 14th. Matt Kenseth in P15 for tonight's race, and 16th will be Jack Sprague. Casey Kane will be in P17, and Jamie McMurray 18th. 19th will be Mark Martin in the 28 car, and Ryan Newman will round out the top 20. 21st will be Mike Bliss, and Sterling Moreland in 22nd. Jeff Green will be 23rd, and Brian Vickers sits in the 24th position. 25th, that'll be Jason Leffler, and 26th, John Andretti. Clint Boyer will be in the 27th spot, and Stanton Barrett a nice qualifying. 28th for the unsponsored 95. 29th will be Greg Biffle, and 30th, Eric Norris. 31st will be Scott Wimmer in 32nd, Elliott Sadler in the 83 car. Regan Smith will be 33rd, and Martin Truex Jr. in 34th. Couple of rookies in that row. Carl Edwards 35th, and Jason Keller making his first Cup start for Roush Racing in the 99. He'll be 36th. John Wood will be 37th, and Johnny Sauter making his return to the Cup Garage. He'll be 38th place. Tim Fatal will be 39th in the 37 car, and Ryan McGlynn in 40th. 41st belongs to Ricky Rudd, and Jeremy Mayfield rounds out the field in 42nd position. 42 stock cars ready to roar to life here at Richmond. As always, he take you to the track for the Command, most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Field of V8s roar to life here from Richmond as we get set to roll under the lights And it is always going to be a fun one at this racetrack. Looking to see a lot of beating and banging, a lot of door slamming at this place. 120 laps of endurance at this racetrack, and expecting 2 pit stops on the day. Pit window is about 52 to 55 laps long. So we will be seeing a money stop late in this race. That'll be around lap 110. We've seen struggles in the pit lane at this racetrack before, but a couple of changes to Richmond, of course, as this racetrack has been modified just a little bit. They've stopped putting sealant on the surface of this racetrack going into this year. And other than that, not a whole lot different other than some safer barriers in extra places, but expecting to see a little bit of different racing at Richmond this time. Pace car peels into pit road on the left. 42 cars ready to race, and the number 43 of Kyle Busch leads the field to the green, and we are underway here from Richmond. Off of turn 4, Kyle Busch from the pole will lead the opening lap of this race. Second place belongs to the outside pole sitter as Jimmy Johnson slots in the line. Third will be Harvick, fourth Ricky Hendrick, and Jeff Gordon gets around the 30 car for the 5th spot to start up this race as we head down the backstretch. And everybody begins to settle in for the long haul here at Richmond. Busch comfortably out front at the moment, holding on to this steady lead as everybody gets sorted out in the back of the field. Number one thing that drivers were saying in practice leading up to this race in their race sims, it's a bit harder to pass at this racetrack now this year than it has been before with the changes they made to the race surface, of course. And we've seen a little bit slower lap times as well. The lap times have sort of came down just a little bit when it comes to into between these laps, and these guys are just running a little bit slower in the corners. So we've seen slower racing. We've seen these guys have a better time holding their lines because of the decreased speed and wearing their tires maybe a little bit less. That's one thing that drivers have seen so far in practice. We'll see if that stays true in the race, of course, but just been a matter of this racetrack changing a little bit over the course of the years, and as well as the changes they've made to prepping this racetrack going into it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out now. A little bit less of a all-time racy racetrack that we've seen in the past. This track has provided some very close racing in the past, but expecting a little bit of a calmer storm this time as Busch has led every lap from the pole so far. Jimmy Johnson right behind in second place. Top 5 has stayed unchanged after completing the first lap. It is a comfortable lead for Kyle Busch in that 43 car, who sits a fraction of a second in front of Jimmy Johnson, a little bit further in front of the 20 of Harvick, who holds up the 5 and 24 in the end of the top 5 here. And do believe, yes, caution flag is out. We have an accident in turn 3, and they are wrecking big coming out of turn number 4. A lot of cars involved in this one. And we have our first caution of the night. That'll bring on early pit stops. Accident entering turn 3 and continued in turn 4. Get a look back at this one. Mike Bliss with heavy damage on the 81 car. Be interested to see what happened here at the start of this one. Looking like it started with him in the back end of the field. Yes, it did. Appears to be contact with the 0 of Christian Elder here in turn number 2. Started all the way back on the start of the backstretch. Yeah, just trying to stay off the 0 and had the 96 underneath and got way loose into the wall. That was the 77 of Bodine involved in it as well. And then we saw the 23 of Wimmer get a piece of that. Bliss backwards in the wall, and then everybody going down the racetrack, and Wimmer came across the track. Probably didn't have a whole lot of control of that thing with the damage on the right front, and got the 07 involved in it, and everybody piling into the pit wall. Saw the 95 hit the pit wall there. That was Stanton Barrett getting a piece of that one. Elliott Sadler involved in it. John Wood got a piece. John Andretti in it as well. Truex got the inside wall there. Believe Biffle might have skirted around it. No, got a tiny piece on the left front. That was the 23 that he hit. Jason Keller on Cup debut as well. Carl Edwards just about found a way around that accident here. So a big wreck in the back end of the field brings out our first early caution flag, and now we will be seeing pit stops here under this yellow. So Kyle Busch will lead the field to the pit lane early, just lap number 8 that we started on that yellow flag. And he brings everybody in here. Top 3 in on the left, and tires at least on the right sides. We'll see if it ends up being 4 for everybody in this field. Would imagine no. And never mind, we will be seeing 4 tires. Some of these guys not taking 4. Seeing Jeff Gordon take 2 tires, and he will take away the race lead. I believe, actually, no. Seeing a couple drivers stay out. So Gordon wins the race off of pit road. Ryan Newman in the 12 will stay out to take the lead. Carl Edwards in the 97 joins him as well. We'll take you to intermission early here from Richmond. Early caution. Big wreck down the backstretch all the way through turn 4. Took out maybe 10 cars, and we will be right back here for the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. Back from intermission here at Richmond as we get set to go back green. Ryan Newman in first, stays out to take the lead. Carl Edwards will be in the second position, stayed out as well. Jeff Gordon on 2 tires. He's going to be in third place, the winner off of pit road. Busch and Johnson round out your top 5. Coming to the restart here as we take lap number 13, and the green flag is back out for Ryan Newman, who gets a great jump over Carl Edwards in second place.
Now what we're going to see is if Ryan Newman's actually going to be able to hold off Jeff Gordon and Kyle Busch. Oh, and Jimmy Johnson already goes into the inside line and is fighting Kyle for 4th.
Side by side for that 4th position. Busch trying to cut him down the racetrack into turn 3. But Jimmy Johnson will slip past on those fresh tires. Of course, him and Busch both on 4. Jeff Gordon on 2. 2 leaders on none. Only a couple laps completed. Of course, we had that caution on lap number 7. So now it's going to be between the 12 and 97 for this lead right now. Seeing a battle back there between Riggs and Earnhardt Jr. That's for 8th place.
Is that Martin Truex in the 8 right there?
That would be, yes.
Wasn't he involved in the wreck earlier?
Was definitely close to it, but imagine he probably took 2 tires and gained some positions on pit road. Has a little bit of a chunk of damage on that right side.
Very bold strategy for Truex then. We'll see if it works out. Oh, mid-race pit stop.
A couple of drivers in the pits getting final repairs done. That was the 16 and 83 in the pits again. Also saw the 51 and 6 making some finalizing repairs. But nonetheless, those drivers just trying to stay in the race, maybe pick up some spots if anybody else DNFs in this one. So on over 40-second pit stop for John Wood in the 6 car. Ryan Newman still in the lead. Carl Edwards sitting in 2nd. These two have pulled away. It's 3rd place Jimmy Johnson. Jeff Gordon in the 24 sits in 4th. And seeing these guys merge from the pit lane here, that was the 51 of Eric Norris leaving the pits on the left. Single file through the top 10 at the moment. First battle on the racetrack is going to be between Mark Martin and Robbie Gordon. Almost, not quite. And Clint Boyer with a nice run. He's in the top 15 right now, fighting with the 00 and 17 for the 14th position on the front stretch right now.
An interesting emerging storyline this week is that it's been a wild week for Roush. Losing 2 drivers in between this week and last. And throughout all this chaos, Jason Keller, I believe, is making his debut this week.
That he was, although he was involved in that accident and has a bit of damage on his race car. He sits in 29th at the moment, so in front of a couple of drivers here and there, but just trying to find his reins, and of course not a great start to a veteran driver in the garage that has ran the majority of the last 5 to 10 Busch seasons and has been a solid driver down there. Ran for a couple of championships, hasn't quite won one recently, but has been close a couple of times and just doing his best to try and fill that hole for Roush. And not off to a great start, of course, but none of his doing. He wasn't the one who caused that accident early in this race, but nonetheless doing what he can.
And the main goal for Jason Keller is to both learn and at least maintain position on the track. And I gotta say, like, 29th isn't really that bad of a spot when you're on your debut, given the circumstances for Keller right now. I think it's a solid spot and it isn't gonna hurt them too much in the Owners' Championship.
Absolutely, just doing their best to fill out the full year. And he's doing a good job so far, trying to pick up spots right now as this field continues to get sorted out in the back end, thanks to the accident earlier.
And I believe it was such a fly-by-night affair that Jason Keller didn't even have a fitted seat until just today.
That would be correct. Did hear that from the garage, so really a quick move, but they managed to get things sorted out for him, and not doing too shabby of a job despite the dent on the back end of that race car, sitting now in 26. Just past his teammate Kenseth for that spot. And racing up there with a couple of drivers who are mired back thanks to the pit stop. See Casey Kane and Kurt Busch running a bit down the order outside the top 20. And everybody just trying to find their way into the long haul for tonight. Ryan Newman still comfortably in the lead. It's a pretty comfortable gap to Carl Edwards, who sits in the 2nd position, holding off Jimmy Johnson right now, who split up the racetrack there in 1 and 2. Jeff Gordon in 4th, and Kevin Harvick rounds out your top 5 early. Just over 20 laps completed in this affair. Seeming like everybody meeting minimum speed as well, so good to see for those guys in the back end of the field. Jimmy Johnson knocking on the door of Carl Edwards for 2nd, trying his best to catch up and maybe make a shot at that move for P2 and maybe get closer to the lead. Has a run on Edwards out of 4, and here he comes to the inside, down towards turn number 1 here. And right on past goes the 48. Jeff Gordon now working for 3rd.
It looks like he'll make that move.
Harvick trying to find a way underneath. Got into the back of Edwards on the front stretch. Edwards holds on to it. Got a little squirrely up the, getting hit up the back end by the 20 of Harvick there. And now up the racetrack, here comes the 20 underneath him. Harvick, not a lot of patience for this 97.
Not a lot of holds being barred this week, I can tell.
Absolutely. Pole sitter Kyle Busch now moves into 5th past the 97 car, as Edwards a little bit rattled thanks to the front bumper of Harvick. Jimmy Johnson challenging with Ryan Newman for the lead.
Out just about riding his back bumper.
At least found a way to give him enough space to not wreck the 12. Right on the back bumper towards turn 1, still staying in line for the moment. Gordon up the track behind the 48. Here comes Harvick underneath him. Got a little loose there. Seen a lot of guys kind of overdrive turn 1 to start this day. And of course we talked about the racing surface just kind of aging a little bit different. Also less sealant on the racetrack this week, as they were trying to make some changes to the racing product at this track. And seeing a lot of guys have missed the middle portion of turn 1, really just overdriving it into there. There's a lot less grip than there used to be, so it's been a struggle to try and find that bottom lane for a lot of these drivers, especially in that set of corners with the curved front stretch.
Another subtle change that you'll notice with this track, or you might not notice, is that those inside walls on the backstretch have ever so slightly been moved inwards. This is actually to combat the issues we've had with pit exit recently. Major safety concern that they put a great emphasis on trying to handle.
Absolutely, and on top of the fact that already mentioned earlier in this broadcast is that they also added the safer barrier to the inside wall. We don't see that at a lot of racetracks, as Jimmy Johnson is going to work on Ryan Newman for the race lead just past lap number 30. But of course, we don't see that at a lot of tracks, but at a track like Richmond, which is so quick, deceptively quick, and with an inside wall so close, it's not a bad safety move, and anything that makes this series safer is a good move in my eyes.
And I think it's a good move in a lot of people's eyes at that point. In that case.
Jeff Gordon moves into second past the 12. Carl Edwards has dropped off the top 5 on no tires, of course. He's down in 6th. Might have to work with Dale Jr. in a moment as the 88 and 31 of Robbie Gordon sits right behind. And Newman dropping a couple spots to Harvick and Busch now.
Another big thing is that tire fall-off has been noticeably different. We've noticed this in practice. The tires not only seem to fall off more, but there seems to be more of a punishment for driving the tires hard.
Absolutely, and we've seen a lot of it, although some drivers had wondered if tire fall-off would be less going into this week. They thought about it, and some drivers even reported that they thought they were doing better on tires, but clearly not the case in the race here. Double zero car, that is Jason Leffler into the pit lane. No damage on that race car, looking like it's a scheduled pit stop for him. So an early pit stop, about 20-25 laps ahead of schedule for him. In and out cleanly, though.
Maybe trying to short pit, do some strategy out here?
Definitely not a wrong move, given that the final pit window, when we went green initially, is about 10-12 laps before the end of the race. So maybe just trying to make it into a two-stop, although with the early pit stop there that we saw these drivers pit in under that caution after just prior to 10 laps. Could see that pit stop get cut out, but it's going to be close for sure, and we will see later into this race. Jeff Gordon trying to catch up to his teammate Jimmy Johnson for this race lead. Kevin Harvick, third straight Chevrolet. He's in third place. Kyle Busch still in P4, running away from Ryan Newman, who's in fifth. Robbie Gordon just moved past the 97. He's in P6 now and took Jack Sprague with him.
Another thing to note is that a track with this much tire wear and this track this quick and technical is that maybe being off sequence has some major advantages. If he can get some open track ahead of him, get a few good laps in, suddenly that second window, he could go out there and lead some laps.
Without a question, it's going to be interesting to see what he can manage. So Leffler going a bit off against the grain here. Coming up on a third of this race completed, as Jimmy Johnson will finish lap number 40 this time by. It will be 80 laps to go in the race, as the top 3 have pulled a long way ahead. Kyle Busch not too far behind in 4th, but these 4 drivers have seemed to emerge as the easiest, fastest cars on the racetrack early in the showing here tonight.
But I think we all know about Richmond. A good car early in the race does not mean having a good car late in the race.
Without a question, it's going to be a matter of trying to have your race car dialed in for the back end of the race, of course. The changes to the racetrack, of course, might change that, but nonetheless, leading early ain't indicative, and we'll see how it goes later on in the showing here. But again, this top 3 have really left everybody in the dust, and there's a lot of spacing between the field to start off this race, seeing a lot of speed disparity in this one. And of course, Jimmy Johnson, ever the fastest driver in the field usually, has a comfortable lead over his teammate Jeff Gordon, who is working against the no left sides on that race car. As we mentioned, one of the only drivers who took 2 to gain positions, but held on to it all right, just not really able to catch up to that Lowe's 48 at the moment. Probably hoping for that first pit window under green coming up not too terribly long from now, expecting that to be around lap 60, 62.
It seems like Jeff Gordon was giving away some spots at the beginning to prepare for the end. That's why he took those 2 tires to shoot up back into that about a P3 spot at the restart. And now here he is with 2 tires in P2, and all he has to do is just wait for the next pit cycle, get 4, and he'll just catch up to Johnson from there.
Definitely looks like a good strategy for that DuPont Chevrolet, but he's got a long way yet to work through it. And, of course, our first battle on the racetrack had to go a long way back for it. That'd be Brian Vickers and Bobby Labonte. They're side-by-side for 17th right now, just in front of Tony Stewart in the 42 and Regan Smith right in front of them, the 2 car. Just outside the top 15, these two, trying to find their way up through the field after the early yellow flag. As Bobby Labonte gets past Vickers very sideways. Stewart almost ran into him with how all over the place he was off of turn number 4 that time. And Stewart moves up a spot. He's into the 18th position ahead of the 44. Seeing Kurt Busch and Ricky Hendrick also trying to pick up some spots in the middle portion of this race. They were a long way back, around maybe 30th or lower at one point in this race, just trying to find track position, and it's difficult to do so at a race like this with how much this field has been spread out today.
That's just the game. It's all about tire management, it's all about fuel management, it's all about managing your stuff.
Without a question, and although it's not that kind of race that you get the points earned the day before on this Saturday night, but it's definitely a race where qualifying matters, and we've seen all these guys who started up front stay up front, and given how far in front the top 4 are right now, it is not a surprise to see, as we see Newman is over a second off of the 43, and Robbie Gordon even further than that. It's 1.5, 1.6 now, between the 43 and 48 from 4th to 1st. Although these 3 from 2nd through 4th not too terribly far apart. It's a big lead for Johnson, who leads by 3/4 of a second over the 24 of Jeff Gordon, who has been in 2nd for most of this run. As here's Kyle Busch trying to make a pass on Kevin Harvick for 3rd.
Doesn't look like he's going to particularly have to try.
Took him a lap to do
Looks
it,
like
but got around him, and 43 in front of the 20 for 3rd place now.
Yeah, that's something that we've heard a lot in practice. Is that this Richmond, this new configuration, it's a lot harder to defend your position.
Without a question, but as we mentioned, also drivers complaining about it being difficult to pass at the same time. It's just a matter of catching your guys, because of course it's been difficult to catch each other. As we mentioned, the speed disparity is so high at this racetrack, and the top 5 fairly well separated, though Robbie Gordon, running easily the best out of the drivers in the top 5 right now, has been lapping a couple tenths quicker than everybody in front of him for the last couple laps, has just had a lot of ground to make up, but is slowly catching up to Kevin Harvick, who sits in 4th. Might see a battle between those two in a couple laps. First lap traffic for Jimmy Johnson coming up soon. Jeremy Mayfield in the 26, who started this race dead last, not having any fun right now. He sits 34th and will be the first car to fall a lap down soon, providing he doesn't pass the 07 of Ryan McGlynn, who's not too terribly far up the road either for this 48 machine.
And that's where this gets real interesting.
Manage the lap
Because
cars.
just as we said, it's hard to pass. It's hard to pass a car that's your equal. It's still hard to pass a car that's slower than you.
Yeah, without a question. It just takes a little bit of time. You really got to work on the guy in front of you at this racetrack, and we've seen a lot of that today. And Johnson shouldn't have too tough of a time, especially with these cars that are first coming up being damaged. As we see pit stops between the 97 car of Carl Edwards, who, of course, one of the 2 drivers who stayed out long. So he's in on lap number 54 for 4 tires and fuel, and Ryan Newman a lap after him. So those guys going to try to go for the undercut, as obviously they stayed out, going to need fuel earlier. They come in, and we can expect the rest of these guys in a couple of laps. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 expected to lead the field down pit road around lap 62, we would have to imagine. Maybe a little earlier than that, as Edwards leaves the pits there just off your screen. Johnson continuing to widen that margin. It's 1.4 between him and his teammate now.
You could probably even stretch this to lap 68, lap 69, and at that point you could really start talking about maybe cutting this final run in half.
Without a question, it would be beneficial for these guys to be able to cut that final pit stop out. So we will see if any of them can manage it. Again, it's close on that fuel margin, given that we made 7 laps under green to start the race. But we will see. Is Jimmy Johnson first lap car that he's found on speed alone, as here is Mayfield getting lapped by him. And his former teammate and former car from last year, as a matter of fact. 26 down a lap. Next is the 07.
We're about to see just how much tires matter here.
And Newman's still getting those things warmed up. Hasn't really hit his best times yet. But starting to pick up speed as he will get to work on passing this 26. Although Mayfield not quite going to give him the line yet. Halfway in the race, 60 down, 60 to go. Jimmy Johnson comfortably leading this race, as we've continued to mention, has dominated the middle portion and hasn't really had a whole lot of competition just yet. But might see some on the latter half of this race. We will see. A couple other drivers picking up spots as they work on their fresh tires. Jason Leffler, of course, pit 20 or so laps ago, is mingling with the top 5, being a couple laps down. And Ryan Newman catching up to the race leader to try and get one of his laps back. And seeing pit stops now, 96 is in. And we'll see the rest of the field start to trickle in now as Jeff Gordon will pit in for his fresh tires on lap number 62.
We expected this. Jeff Gordon did take 2.
Of course.
He was probably going to pit earlier.
Wanting to get on the fresh tires, and not a surprise at all for him. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Jimmy Johnson, race leader, dominant race car into the pits. Mostly everybody else stays out. And it's going to be 3 wide on the front stretch going into turn 1 for the race lead at the moment. Busch up the middle. Kevin Harvick down on the bottom. This is a tight mix down the back stretch. Busch trying to clear Harvick up the middle. Got past both of them. Harvick will duck into the pits. No thank you. 43 now your race leader. What a move by Kyle Busch. Those 2 Chevrolets there.
And now now as these laps start to log more and more and more, that potential for just skipping that final stop, making it on
Car
one
in the
stop.
wall, Jeff Gordon 24. Caution is out. And that shakes everything up in this race.
I believe that's going to trap Jimmy a lap down.
Jeff Gordon leaving the pit lane. Evidently got involved in an accident we talk about. The pit exit at this racetrack. Also got hit by the 48 there going into his box. So we saw trouble for those guys, and then it seems to have gotten worse for the 24. Looks like Newman gave him a bit of help, and up and over went the 24 of Jeff Gordon. Roof first into the outside wall.
He's definitely going to feel that one in the morning.
My goodness.
This entire sequence of events is just a complete error of communication. There had to be no sign of a spotter. Gordon should have been able to notice that. There should have been someone up there to tell him the 12 was coming up on him.
Not like he could have really done anything, to be honest with you. He was about as low as he could have gotten in the 12. Almost got forced into him by the 68. That was Johnny Sauter on the outside, so really nobody playing their cards right there in turn 3. And Jeff Gordon, who is one of the quicker cars in this race, is now out. And it remains to be seen who the race leader will be. I believe it is still going to be Johnson. Though maybe not. Looking like he's going to pit in again. And he will. So this is getting interesting now. I'm going to be interested to see. I believe the leader will be the 22 of Sterling Marlin. Let's see the line here. And that is not correct. Not entirely sure what lap this race is on. Lap number 68. Leader is Kyle Busch, so there are a lot of cars lapped here. We'll take an intermission here from Richmond, get everything sorted out. Just past the halfway mark, and Kyle Busch in the 43, now your race leader, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here at Richmond, it's going to get wacky now as Kyle Busch will have the race lead. Just 17 cars, thanks to Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s lucky dog, will be on the lead lap. Top 5 is Busch, Gordon, Sprague, McMurray, and Vickers. And this one is going to get weird now as a 43 early leader will take us to the green once again. Starts off from first, a solid start for Robbie Gordon and everybody else behind.
I also believe with the timing of that caution, everyone should be good to the end.
Would imagine we did see a lot of extra drivers go in for fuel under that yellow flag. Seeing a couple drivers pit in again, though I would imagine those are probably black flags for passing on the inside on that restart. But nonetheless, Kyle Busch in the lead. Battle for second is between Robbie Gordon and Jack Sprague. Gordon clears him on the outside coming out of turn number 2 onto the backstretch. And 43 leading this race now as we start to get into the late stages. And again, not a lot of people. It was problems for Mark Martin, who is blowing an engine, and that is going to bring out a yellow flag again. Caution comes out for Martin down a motor. Kyle Busch leads the field back to the caution, and we are under yellow once again.
I believe he was reporting a vibration during the yellow and just couldn't bring it in.
Although it sounded over the radio communications that that was an issue of tire problems, so something else went wrong, just everything coming apart on that 28 car and laying smoke on the track, so he will bring it into the pit lane, and we are back under caution again. Now the lucky dog belongs to the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, who was the leader of the race before that mid-pit cycle caution messed everything up, so he will be back on the lead lap here as Mark Martin retires from the race. And we'll take you to intermission once more here from Richmond. Kyle Busch in the lead after that quick second caution there. Back from intermission here at Richmond as we get set to go once again. Kyle Busch still your leader. Top 5 remains unchanged. It is Gordon, Sprague, McMurray, and Vickers. Jimmy Johnson, the 48 car, was lucky dog that last caution. And now just 15 cars in the lead lap thanks to the problems for the 57 and 4, who both got black flagged if I'm not mistaken. But coming to the restart, it'll be lap number 80 at the line and 40 to go after that when we cross the time after this. Busch to lead the field here, pace car in, and we are back underway once more as Busch kind of caught sleeping on that start. Robbie Gordon got a better one than last time, not close enough to jump to the inside.
So I might be wrong here. Would this be Kyle Busch's first career win if he pulls it off tonight?
It would be in the Cup Series anyway. Does have a win in the Busch Series this year, and Johnson is going to be the next one to pit in after the restart, so tough break for him. He just got the lucky dog.
Kyle Busch is starting to pull away from Robbie Gordon.
Busch trying to run circles on the rest of the field right now. Pulls away a little bit from that 31, as you mentioned. Sprague in third, McMurray fourth, Ryan Newman. Actually, a lap car is that 12, so Vickers drops down a spot just on the running position on racetrack right now. Although the car behind him is for position. That's Casey Atwood in the 30. But not quite close enough to make anything happen. And of course, worth mentioning, this is really good for Robbie Gordon with where he's running right now, given that Jimmy Johnson had to go down the pit lane under that restart there. Gordon's going to make up plenty of points if he can finish where he is. Johnson now running in 28th in that 48 car. So, going to be making up some points. Good for the 31 car, but right now I think he's thinking about that win.
We have Jamie McMurray making a move on Jack Sprague.
40 car moves up into third, looking quick right now. Sprague down to fourth, battle for fifth. Vickers and Atwood into turn one. Side by side by those two. Vickers trying to hang tight on the outside, but not quite able to do so, and Atwood moves into the top five. Double top five for Childress right now. Interested to see where the 8 car of Truex is running. He's in 30th. One of the cars really victimized by that caution. Lucky Dog right now belongs to the 12 of Newman if another caution were to come out. Robbie Gordon closing in on Busch for the race lead. Gordon already a winner a couple times this year. Trying to go for more as he sits on the back bumper of Kyle Busch, but he's running out of laps. Still plenty left at the moment, but time continues to tick down. It'll be the final 30 laps of this race very soon. And these two have ran away from the rest of the field. It is just Kyle Busch and Robbie Gordon. Jamie McMurray is a ways off, sitting in third place. Sprague might be about to be under fire from his teammate Vickers for fourth, as the 44 got back past that 30 car of Atwood. And Robbie Gordon for the race lead. 31 car is into first place. It was at this very racetrack just a year ago where Kyle Busch was denied his first career win by then long winless drought holder Bobby Labonte in the 18, who passed him late in that race. Busch not wanting to be outdone by another Chevrolet. He's got to keep that 31 close, but he really ran a great 3 and 4 that time, trying to close that gap back up. "29 laps to go. "51 is going to be the first car to fail minimum speed today. Pull him off the racetrack. McMurray still a long ways off. It's 1.5 between him and the 43 who sits in second place, trying desperately to keep Robbie Gordon within his sights late in this race. But Gordon is beginning to scoot away. You can tell just how hard Kyle Busch is driving that 43 car right now, missing the bottom a couple times with how hard he's entering the corners, trying everything to get every ounce of mid-corner speed he can out of it. That's the spot where Robbie Gordon, I think, has him beat because he hasn't been driving it that hard to get the extra speed. But Kyle has been throwing it at the racetrack trying to stay with him, and so far it's working, but you gotta wonder if he's gonna wear out those tires trying to do so. 25 laps to go now. As Robbie Gordon still trying to pull away. Ran a 0.3 of a second almost better lap that last time, but Busch much harder into turn 1 again, trying to keep him close. You can't let him pull away at this stage in the race, and Busch is not letting him do so. Closes right back up, but still not close enough to make a move for the lead. 4th place belonging to Vickers right now. Sprague in 5th. Under fire now from Atwood in the 30. And contact between the 30 and 55. Atwood runs him up the hill. They hold on to it, an aggressive move as Atwood takes some paint off of the 55. He moves into the top 5 spot. Goodness me, everybody getting the elbows out. Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards are slowly catching up, trying to catch Newman for the lucky dog position right now. As they're going to slip past the 55 machine. Busch still trying to close the gap to Robbie Gordon, who's got lap traffic ahead, the first car of which is the 68 of Johnny Sauter. 20 laps to go here from Richmond. Right on the back bumper, but Busch slides up in the middle of the corner. Trying to get his front bumper to connect with the back bumper, the 31 maybe missed the middle of the corner again in 3 and 4. Sauter in the way of the 31 machine, and Robbie Gordon couldn't get underneath him that time. Should be able to down the back stretch here. And does get underneath. And Kyle Busch will not waste much time either. I believe Sauter has a lot of engine damage, so he too should be pulled off the track here. Couple laps down and he will retire from this race. Kevin Harvick is next. Kyle Busch still trying to run down the 31 of Robbie Gordon for this race lead, but he is running out of laps. Inside the final 20 laps of this race. Nearing the final 10. It's been this game of accordion effect. Robbie Gordon pulls out a bit of ways in front, but Busch pushes hard enough to catch right back up to him. It's just a matter of getting all the way there, and he hasn't been able to do so since Gordon took the lead. Better lap by Robbie Gordon again that time. He's coming up on ex-teammate Harvick with 15 to go. Nowhere for Robbie Gordon to go that time into turn 3. Should be able to get him on the front stretch, although Harvick maybe being a little bit of a nuisance for this 31 car. And that pulls Kyle Busch just a little bit closer. He'll have a chance to get past him down the backstretch and will do so much easier than Robbie Gordon did, which allows him to catch back up. But by how much? Had his exit compromised just a little bit, and Robbie Gordon gains that time back. It is just between these two. McMurray has not been able to close the gap from third. Racetrack is still clear right now. Robbie Gordon, already a winner twice this year, both in Australia. Kyle Busch, winner once in the Busch Series, also in Australia. looking to capture an elusive first career win. Busch still searching for anything that he can find in these final 10 laps to reel him back in. 10 laps to go here from Richmond. Robbie Gordon still leading over Kyle Busch. Busch still just within shot at the back end here. Still not going away, but hasn't been able to close up. You gotta think if he used up his stuff trying to get there, but at the same time, he's a little closer this time off of turn 4. 8 laps to go. Closing back up. That gap's a lot smaller than it was a couple laps ago. He might have a shot at it here. Right on the back bumper, 7 to go.
Just one car length for Kyle Busch. Can he set up into turn 1? He's looking inside, but can't get to the bumper. He drifts high, and he's right on Robbie Gordon right there as they head down to turn 3.
Got so close, almost looked like he was trying to move him there going into turn 1, but he's got a tiny little run out of turn 4. Not close enough to duck the nose underneath. It's 6 to go that time by. Robbie Gordon still holding on to the lead, but Busch has found a second wind.
If Robbie makes one mistake, one mishap, it's Kyle's advantage.
Busch
As
with
they
a
head
run
down
out of
to-
turn 4. Here he comes for the race lead.
5 laps to go, side by side. Kyle trying to get into turn 1, but Robbie shuts the door.
Gordon shuts the door on the 43 into turn 1, and out of turn 2, still bumper to bumper as they head down the backstretch. Busch still looking for this first win. He almost had it at this very track last year. Can he get it this year? 4 to go. Gordon with a car length over the 43.
Robbie Gordon needs 4 perfect laps, but Kyle's going to try and do the step. He goes high. That cost him a little bit of time, but I think he might be able to get his momentum back up off 3 and 4 again.
This is the end of the racetrack where Kyle's been better. He's got the run out of turn 4 again. Will he make a second shot at the lead? He looks down the front stretch, and he does look underneath into turn 1. Gordon up the hill. Here comes Kyle Busch.
And he forces him by! Can he shut the door on Robbie? They're still high. He's still high. Through 3 and 4, he's got to run on that outside. And then he
Gordon
loses it.
loose. Busch to the lead with 2 laps to go.
All Kyle needs to do is he needs 2 perfect laps, and he'll be able to hold them off. So many years of trying for young Kyle Busch over here. He went through Evernham. Now he's made it over to Richard Petty. And he's been having a career year so far. This might be the breakthrough win he's been looking for. 1 more lap to go for Kyle Busch.
Last lap here at Richmond, seeing drivers duck into the pits. The question is if he has enough fuel to make it. Gordon missed turn 1 that time down the backstretch. Years and years of suffering and agony for the 43. Kyle Busch, it finally comes to an end for him. First career win in the Cup Series for Kyle Busch. What a long time coming it was, and he has done it. Career win number 1 for the younger Busch brother here at Richmond. What a way to close it. Found a second win at the end of that race, and finally, Kyle Busch has his first career Cup win, and that pass came with just 3 laps to go against Robbie Gordon.
Didn't even need to touch him. He just got him arrow loose.
Yeah, I don't believe he got into the 31 there. Yeah, he didn't. Put the arrow on him, and it was history. Forced Gordon overdrive the corner to make sure he didn't get hit. Veteran move by Kyle Busch right there. And at the very track where he lost his first career win to Bobby Labonte, this very race last year, the Pontiac Excitement 400, comes back again and outdoes another veteran. And this time, it'll be Kyle Busch, NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series winner. His first Cup Series triumph that took an eternity. And what a way to earn it. But that'll do it for coverage here from Richmond as Kyle Busch finally has his first career win here tonight. And that will do it from the Pontiac Excitement 400. On behalf of Trey and Braden in the booth with me tonight, next week it'll be Nashville, the Dr. Pepper 400. We'll catch you then, and as always, I'm your host, Caden Reif. We'll see you then, and have a good one.